all be better off if we were more like bacteria. Now that sounds like something any microbiology-crazed high schooler would say, but I truly believe we have much to learn from these minuscule creatures. Bacteria are some of the oldest life forms on Earth. According to Oxford University, they are approximately 3.5 billion years old. They have lived through us humans, they have persisted through bitter ice ages, and they survived the dinosaurs and the meteor that hit them. Bacteria often get a bad rap. After all, they are the reason behind salmonella, tuberculosis, and so many other lethal diseases. But you'd be surprised to know that fewer than 100 species of bacteria cause infection. 100 still sounds like a lot, but when you really look at it, it's an incredibly small fraction. There are so many species of bacteria out there that scientists can't even decide on how many there are. Currently, the estimate is between 10 million and 1 billion species. So you could say they've got it pretty narrowed down. Regardless of the exact number, the sheer amount of bacteria in the world around us is astounding. Right now, there are more bacterial cells in and on your body than there are your own body cells. Just look at this graphic. Bacteria make up 78% of all living matter. Just as a comparison, look at the percentage of plants. Not even 1%. The entire Amazon rainforest, the thick algae blooms and swamps, and the flowers that you get on Valentine's Day don't even make up 1% of living matter. Now just try to imagine how much bacteria there has to be out there in order to outnumber plants by that large of a margin. The question that remains, though, is how did they do it? How did bacteria outmaneuver and outlast all other living matter? Well, they did it in a number of ways, but arguably the most interesting and unique is through a process called horizontal gene transfer, or HGT. Most bacteria have a pilus, a tail-like structure attached to the surface of their cell. Through this pilus, bacteria have the ability to share a plasmid, a bundle of genetic information, with another bacterial cell. This other bacterium does not even have to be of the same species. They simply have to be cooperative and in the right place at the right time. Through this process, bacteria have the ability to share their best and strongest traits with one another. Through HGT, a bacterial cell can acquire a beneficial gene that arose in another cell. The origin of new beneficial genes through mutation and natural selection is presumably extremely rare, and stealing a gene from a neighbor is much more efficient than waiting to evolve it independently, and it ultimately enhances survival because it chooses the best genes from a huge gene pool. But this ability that bacteria have is often viewed in a negative light, because it is the culprit behind antibiotic resistance, in which good bacteria that live in animal guts transfers over a trait that makes them resistant to antibiotics to bad or infectious bacteria. But I think we should be giving bacteria more credit for being so cool. Just imagine if humans could do HGT. Imagine if I could go up to someone in the audience right now, hold their hand for a couple of seconds, and then bam, perfect eyesight, straight teeth, and resistance to a plethora of diseases. Now, that would be great, but last I checked, we don't have pili or plasmids. So I guess I'll have to continue being a microbiology-crazed high schooler who wishes she was a Staphylococcus aureus or Escherichia coli. But what if we did do horizontal gene transfer? Maybe not physically. I don't think any of us are hiding giant tails to transfer genetic information. But what if we could do it mentally, emotionally? When I was 5, my family and I moved to a small island off the coast of Malaysia called Penang. That was an abrupt change for 5-year-old me. I didn't know anyone, and I felt alone and scared. It took me a while to warm up. It wasn't until middle school that I settled into a group of some of the best friends I've ever had. I attended an international school, so my friends and I came from all corners of the world. And gradually, as time went on, we all started moving back to our home countries. but we never lost contact. When it was finally my turn and I moved back home to Austin, Texas, I never felt alone or afraid. In fact, I felt stronger and more confident. And I made friends much faster than 5-year-old me did, a huge achievement. But I wondered to myself, what was so different this time? When I moved to Penang, I was positively terrified. So what changed? I had friends, and we never lost our connection. In a literature review, a group of scientists found that the primary behavioral adaptation in all primates was sociality. When it came to hunting and gathering, it was evolutionarily favorable for humans to be social. The more people you knew and the larger social network you had, the stronger you were. And not just in spirit. Another group of researchers found that people with higher quantity and quality of social relationships had a 50% increased likelihood of survival. On the other hand, people with weak social connections had a higher risk of death. The researchers go so far to say that the risk of death associated with weak social connections is equivalent to the risk of death of smoking and drinking. In fact, in another study, Dr. Vivek Murthy, a former Surgeon General of the United States, stated that the reduction in lifespan caused by weak social connection is equivalent to the reduction in lifespan caused by smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So, having strong friendships is not only a pick-me-up, it keeps you alive. But how do we know for sure that social relationships are important? What if people who are just generally unhealthy are bad at making social connection? Well, a groundbreaking study published in Science found that there was no biological health or biological variable in any of their studies that could explain the association between risk of death and the quality of social relationships. Experiencing social connectedness is just as important as getting those 8 hours of sleep, exercising, and eating healthy. It's a part of who we are. The problem we have now is that social connectedness in the United States has been continuously decreasing and has only been exacerbated by the recent pandemic. Researchers have found a positive correlation between social isolation and increases in symptoms of depression, dementia, anxiety, and other mental illnesses. Social connection drives humanity. Without it, we wouldn't be here today. Though we can't alter our genetic material in a matter of minutes, we still share our experiences in order to make our communities stronger. Isn't that what bacteria were doing all along? Strengthening their community? Sure, they had fancy methods of doing it, but ultimately they were transferring information, making connections, and evolving. We have so much power when we make meaningful connections. No matter the changes we face, if we stand united, if we build each other up, we could truly do anything. Empathy and understanding are some of our greatest assets, but our world is so focused on being divided and having an opinion that we push people away and avoid making those connections. In a time where issues of war and poverty and climate change are increasingly prevalent, it is more important than ever that we stand together rather than apart. My friends and I help each other, but if we helped others the way we do our friends and family, we could be undividable. We could persist, survive, and thrive like bacteria have for so many years. So make connections. Don't be afraid to get to know people like 5-year-old me was. Understand others, not just humans, but animals, plants, and life. Understand how they work, why they work, and how we can live in a state of constant peace rather than constant war. So I urge you, if you don't know the person sitting next to you, say hi. Ask them about themselves. If you do know them, find somebody that you don't. Make connections, persist, survive, and thrive. Thank you.